As of 1 p.m. today, the Kingdom of Erusia has declared war on the Osean Federation. As soon as the news broke out, enemy aircraft began bombing Osean territory, causing widespread destruction. The Air Defense Force has released a statement saying this violent attack was carried out by drones. They speculate the drones were secretly transported to Osea in shipping containers and launched remotely. The Secretary of the Navy has stated that the enemy was targeting naval ports across the country. According to the Secretary, all of the nation's aircraft carriers, including one still under construction, sustained severe damage in the attacks. We have yet to hear back from the department as to the fate of Osean carriers currently at sea. Hold on, I've just received breaking news. The International Space Elevator, which is being built in southern Usea, has been seized by the Erusian army. Reports say former President Harling was touring the site at the time, but his current whereabouts are unknown. Our sources in government tell us it was Harling's policies regarding the space elevator that caused economic frictions in the area, and which ultimately led to this war. Located near Erusia, on the continent of Usea, the space elevator has been under construction for some time now. The Executive Office of the Osean Federation has declared a national state of emergency. They have ordered all its armed forces, including Usian peacekeepers, to mobilize and make the necessary preparations to launch an immediate counterattack. Ladies and gentlemen, our country is officially at war. Stay tuned for further updates.
Breaking news from ENN. Osea launched an attack on the capital today, striking Farbanti from their aircraft carrier, the Kestrel II. After a brutal battle, the Erusian Air Force successfully repelled them. During the air raid, the Osean Air Force fired missiles at the city and managed to shoot down a number of Erusian fighters. Some of the disabled planes then crashed into residential areas.
The world was screwed. 20 years ago, the Earth got slammed by an asteroid. Usea was on the wrong side of the planet and got hit. Hard. Refugees swarmed the Erusian Republic, the biggest country on the continent, plunging it into chaos. They were desperate and started a war, one they had no hope of winning. That's the war my dad fought and died in. The biggest nations from 2 continents went head-to-head, and the so-called righteous Oseans struck the deal that ended it. They fancied themselves the only nation that could bring peace and stability to the world. They even tried saving the Usians, still suffering from the disaster. That's how a space elevator, stretching way up into the sky, ended up being built in Usea, paid for by the Oseans. President Harling said he did it out of compassion for his fellow humans. But to the folks in Erusia, it looked like Osea was moving in to take over. Erusia went from being a republic back to being a kingdom. When they started this new war, they managed to get the drop on everyone.
As of 1 p.m. today,
The second the declaration hit the news, Erusian forces took control of the space elevator without spilling a single drop of blood. President Harling was touring the elevator when it happened and disappeared. Then, while that was going on, the Erusian ships that were docked all around Osea released a swarm of drone fighters they had hidden on board in containers. No one thought they were capable of doing what they did that day. With pinpoint accuracy, they managed to take out everything that was military, and not a single civilian was hurt in the process. Osea pissed lots of people off with their huge military presence around the world. Erusia didn't have the same reach, but they could hit their targets faster and cleaner. And when all this was going down, I just so happened to be in my flying drag racer. In case you were wondering, yeah, I survived. I crashed in a bombed-out Osean Air Force base, then got arrested for breaking wartime aviation laws or some crap. The world went from being at peace to being at war, all in the blink of an eye.
Princess Rosa Cassette Delise of the Kingdom of Erusia. Today, Osean airstrikes have shattered the lives of countless Erusians. Their attacks practically leveled the school I went to. It is heartbreaking. Tragic.
I was tried, found guilty, and stuffed into a cargo ship. For company, I had some court-martialed soldiers. And remember those mothballed planes I told you about before? They were loaded on the ship too. We headed off down south for several days, and then swung east. That's how I got here. I was thousands of kilometers from Erusia, on the opposite side of the Yuzian continent. For a port, it was dull as hell. It had 3 rusty patrol boats, and the base? The fences were topped with razor wire, the tower had a searchlight and machine guns, and a truck with a gun turret was parked in front of the gate. Its gun was aimed at the yard. This was a prison. This place looked like a full-on base, but half the tanker trucks were just big balloons, and the runways weren't even paved, just painted on the dirt. The whole place was just one big fat lie. The only reason I was here is because they knew I'd restored a supersonic plane. They wanted me to make something out of the mothballed planes they brought, that they could park on the fake runway. Can you believe that shit? So, I tried to escape. They found out, and set the dogs on me.
Erusia has made a declaration to the Ocean Federation and all countries on the Yuzian continent stationing the IUN peacekeeping force that we are now at war. Right after the declaration was made, surprise attacks began around the continent that have inflicted major damage to our armed forces. Forces aligned with Erusia are currently appearing throughout Yusia. The combination of these forces has overwhelmed the majority of the continent, and they are now encroaching on us in the east. Additionally, the multinational space elevator has been seized by the Erusian military. After the previous war, the space elevator became both a symbol of peace and a valuable asset in the fight against growing energy concerns. Whoever has control of it will have enormous influence over the entire continent. We cannot turn a blind eye to this critical situation. The Fort Gray's Air Base Squadron has been entered into the order of battle to reclaim the elevator as an advanced element. First, you will attack all hostiles coming in the east of Schofield Plateau to stop any interference with the Allied ground troops. The enemy has deployed several vehicles equipped with anti-air radar along the roads. You are to destroy them. They should not pose much of a threat. However, there is a high likelihood that the attack will draw more enemy air support. If that happens, fight them off swiftly and establish air superiority.
Alright, welcome back to Ace Combat 7. There's a lot of cutscenes in this game, so there's gonna be bits where just long stretches of just quiet. I'm gonna let the cutscenes play if anybody's interested in watching the story. Alright, so there's a little bit more mention of the drones, which are gonna be a major part of the story in this game. It's kind of like the focus, traditional pilots versus these really high-tech drones. So for this mission, I'm gonna be picking the F4E, I believe. Let me see. Yeah. Alright, yeah, the Phantom 2. So yeah, the Phantom in this game is really good as a interceptor. I probably, looking back now, it's probably not the best choice for this type of mission, because you're engaging a lot of ground forces and mixed in with some fighters. So it's probably better to take just a plain fighter, or a maybe even, I wouldn't say a bomber, probably, which is more of a better general use type of aircraft would be better suited for this mission, honestly.
Current target is on rails.
Still pretty simple and straightforward. You're just kind of dealing with like all the enemies on the map. Take out the targets and you're good. Yeah, this so this cockpit is very cluttered. I think end up dying around on this run.
No point arguing. That's how
yeah.
war is these days. Do you have visual on the anti-air radar vehicles? They should be close.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Phantom a little bit. So the Phantom, it's a this is a two-seater jet, much like the what was it, the Super Hornet in the last episode. This is more of a. It was originally kind of designed to be a fighter bomber, but it eventually became a interceptor. So yeah, this is a very fast jet. Top speeds, like we're talking like Mach 2. Focuses on like air-to-air and air-to-ground, so a little bit of a mix. So this is actually older, I think, than the Super Hornet, like Vietnam era. So Ace Combat has like a good mix of like, I guess like the oldest jets that you're gonna find in the game are around like the 60s era. Like you're not gonna find anything like too earlier than that. You can generally kind of tell with like the design of the cockpits if you're flying something that's older or not, like the MiGs.
Watch out, the enemy has a lock on you.
But the Phantom here served a lot as the kind of. This is like the what you would see most of the time in Vietnam during the Operation Rolling Thunder, where the U.S. military, during that time in the war, they were deciding that, all right, so we can't send ground troops across the border of Vietnam due to like, kind of like the nature of the war at the time. They were afraid of, you know, having repeated the Korean War, bringing in Chinese troops. They thought was a major threat if they were to like increase aggression during the war. So military is like, well, okay, we can't send actual guys, you know, past the border. So how about we take a couple of fighters, these Phantoms, and just start bombing, do limited bombing of like, say like, you know, factories and there it goes. I clipped the wire on this one. I actually didn't know that there was like a hitbox designed on like there's like electrical wires. But yeah, so the idea was we're gonna attack like factories and ports, like limited bombing. We're not gonna do like, you know, like the fire bombing that they did in Japan in World War II. Just kind of like limit the bombing to where like we're gonna get rid of their ability to fight.
Missile away. The clouds don't just affect your field of vision. They also mess with your HUD and radar. The Seekers can sometimes lose their lock on to their
bringing up the Blue
too.
Angels again, this was actually kind of used at the time by the Blue Angels during a little bit.
Box 2.
Yeah, like 1969, around that time, 70s. But yeah, you can see me switching over out of the cockpit view because it's just too crowded for this one. And see here, you can kind of see why, you know, this isn't probably the best plane for this mission. It's actually kind of too fast if you're wanting to like do strafing runs on ground targets. But I mean, like air-to-air combat, it's actually not a bad choice if you want to like catch up with people quickly. The multiplayer is actually kind of like well made in this game. Like it's not like the major focus, but you know, like from what little I've played of it, it's actually kind of fun. I'm nowhere near as good as people are online at this game. Like people are insane. Like they know how to do like all the post-stall maneuvers. Like it's like what that is actually is like you're intentionally letting your plane stall or like start falling out of the sky, basically, and you can do these like weird kind of like dips and turns and breaks if you like know what you're doing. Like generally stalling isn't a good thing, but if you're doing post-stall stuff, like you actually want to like start basically cut your engine out and then like quickly start it up again.
All transports have been destroyed. Carrying.
5 targets remaining. 4 targets remaining. Page 2 locked.
Yeah, I think what do I have equipped on this one? Is it the air-to-ground missile? Yeah, so the air-to-ground missile, you want to use that mostly like if you're doing a bombing mission. What it does is basically you can't target aircraft with it, but it has better range for land targets. And what it will do is it'll like travel just really fast, and it like immediately, like almost at I think it's like a 75-degree angle, just like immediately just like dips down to like whatever you're firing at. It's like if you can get a good angle, like above a hill, just kind of like shoot it over the hill, then it'll like quickly drop down.
Status report.
Multiple bogeys on radar. They're close.
Wait.
Here's the introduction of drones.
You're cleared to engage. They're probably hostile.
This is actually like a neat idea, like this type of game. Because like for games like this, you can't really have too many differing types of enemies. Like look at that.
Just think of them as somewhat clever decoys. Take them all down.
Because like I mean, think about it. Like it's a game about realistic aircraft. You can't really do too much with it other than like enemy type wise. Say like, alright, we got like fighters, interceptors, bombers, and like maybe if you want to like throw in like some sort of like troop carrier type of plane or something. It's about like maybe 4 or 5 types of enemies that you can have. Drones kind of make like a they kind of like take the place of like fighters, but it's more of like a I guess you want to say like elite unit that you could have in like other games. Just like an upgraded version of like fighters. It's like if you just watch, you can see them like they're way more faster and agile than like any of the planes that you have. It's like they're just able to do these like any maneuvers that like humans can't do. Ace Combat does like cool stuff like this where it kind of incorporates like kind of like almost futuristic stuff into it sometimes.
Page 2 locked.
I think here I am trying to like get behind it, wait for it to get out of the clouds because the missile can't lock on with the too much interference with like targeting while you're in the clouds in this game.
I'm buying dinner for anyone who takes down an enemy.
The effects in this game are still amazing to me. Like that like water splash on the camera.
Get out of the clouds. The ice will melt.
One to go. Let's get through this.
I think I'm not in the cockpit view because I was like saying during the stream like I just hate how crowded it is and I actually can't see anything if it's not like ahead of me. Oh yeah, you can just like you can see how fast they're moving.
Take them down one at a time.
Don't ice up in there.
Clouds are screwing up the accuracy.
Yeah, just chasing these drones in like a Vietnam era like plane is just crazy.
Once you hit one of them, stick to him like glue. Don't let him out of your sight.
War Thunder, I hear, is also like a okay game for planes. I tried getting into it, but it was like a little too arcadey for me.
Nice kill, Trigger.
I had that problem with like the with World of Tanks 2, which I think is by the same developer.
Skies are clear. Nice work, everyone.
Like if I was wanting to play like a tank game, I want the
No casualties.
like I want to feel like I'm just like in an unwieldy hunk of metal. Like I don't want it to be too fast.
No point arguing. That's how war is these days.
So yeah, the missions are still kind of simple at this point. You're still trying to like
The guys in charge
get you
take
used to
care of the
everything.
rest.
It'll start like throwing in like crazy like gimmicks on like the map, like terrain and objectives later on. But for now, it's just like just kill whatever's on the map right now. Alright. Well, I think another cutscene is about to come up, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave off.
The first barrier keeping us from retaking the space
Hope
elevator is
you all
gone.
have a good one.
Now is the time
Good
to
evening
group
or
up
good day
and
while you're
begin the
watching this,
counteroffensive.
whatever time
Let
it
us
is.
reclaim what is ours.